The private victory. We're going to begin this with the personal bank account. Before you'll ever win in the public arenas of life, you must first win the private battles within yourself. All change begins with you. I'll never forget how I learned this lesson. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. What's wrong with you? You're disappointing me. Where's the Sean I once knew in high school? Coach glared at me. Do you even want to be out there? I was shocked. Yes, of course. Oh, give me a break. You're just going through the motions and your heart's not in it. You better get your act together or the younger quarterbacks will pass you up and you'll be a bench warmer. It was my sophomore year at Brigham Young University during preseason football camp. Several colleges recruited me straight out of high school, but I chose BYU because they had a tradition of producing All-American quarterbacks like Jim McMahon and Steve Young, both of whom went on to the pros and led their teams to Super Bowl victories. Although I was the third-string quarterback at the time, I planned on being the next All-American. When Coach told me that I was stinking up the field, it came as a cold, hard slap in the face. The thing that really bugged me, though, was that he was right. Even though I was spending long hours practicing, I wasn't truly committed. I was holding back, and I knew it. I had a hard decision to make. I had to either quit football or triple my commitment. Over the next several weeks, I waged a war inside my head and came face to face with many fears and self-doubts. Did I have what it took to be the starting quarterback? Could I handle the pressure? Was I big enough? It soon became clear to me that I was scared of competing, scared of being in the limelight, scared of trying and perhaps failing. And all these fears were holding me back from giving it my all. There's a great quote by Arnold Bennett that described what I finally decided to do about my dilemma. He wrote, "The real tragedy is the tragedy of the man who never in his life braces himself for one supreme effort. He never stretches to his full capacity, never stands up to his full stature." Having never enjoyed tragedy, I decided to brace myself for one supreme effort. So I committed to give it my all. I decided to stop holding back and to start laying it all on the line. I didn't know if I would ever get a chance to be first string, but if I didn't, at least I was going to strike out swinging. The real tragedy is the tragedy of the man who never in his life braces himself for his one supreme effort. He never stretches to his full capacity and never stands up to his full stature. No one heard me say I commit. There was no applause. It was simply a private battle that I fought and won inside my own mind over a period of several weeks. Once I committed myself, everything changed. I began taking chances and making big improvements on the field. My heart was in it now. I knew it, and the coaches saw that. As the season began and the games rolled by one, I sat on the bench. Although frustrated, I kept working hard and kept improving. Mid-season featured the big game of the year. We were to play nationally ranked Air Force on ESPN in front of 65,000 fans. A week before the game, Coach called me into his office and told me that I would be the starting quarterback. Gulp. Needless to say, that was the longest week of my life. Game day finally arrived. At kickoff, my mouth was so dry I could barely talk. But after a few minutes, I settled down and led our team to victory. I was even named the ESPN Player of the Game. Afterward, lots of people congratulated me on the victory and my performance. That felt good, but they didn't really understand. They didn't know the full story. They thought that victory had taken place on the field that day in the public eye. I knew it happened months before, in the privacy of my own head, when I decided to face my fears, to stop holding back, and to brace myself for one supreme effort. Beating Air Force was a much easier challenge than overcoming myself. Private victories always come before public victories. As the saying goes, we have met the enemy, and he is us. Inside out. We crawl before we walk. We learn addition before algebra. We must fix ourselves before we can fix others. If you want to make a change in your life, the place to begin is with yourself. Not with your parents, your teacher, your girlfriend, or your boyfriend. All changes begin with YOU. Think about it. It's inside out, not outside in. I am reminded of the writings of an Anglican bishop. When I was young and free and my imagination had no limits, I dreamed of changing the world. As I grew older and wiser, I realized the world would not change. And I decided to shorten my sights somewhat and change only my country. But it too seemed immovable. As I entered my twilight years, in one last desperate attempt, I sought to change only my family, those closest to me. But alas, they would have none of it. And now here I lie on my deathbed and realize, perhaps for the first time, that if only I'd changed myself first, then by example I may have influenced my family, and with their encouragement and support I may have bettered my country, and who knows, I may have changed the world. This is what this book is all about, changing from the inside out, starting with a man or the woman in the mirror. This chapter, the personal bank account, and the ones that follow on habits 1, 2, and 3 deal with you and your character or the private victory. The next 4 chapters, the relationship bank account and habits 4, 5, and 6 deal with relationships or the public victory. Before diving into habit 1, let's take a look at how you can immediately begin to build your self-confidence and achieve a private victory. The personal bank account. How you feel about yourself is like a bank account. Let's call it your personal bank account, your PBA. Just like a checking or savings account at a bank, you can make deposits into and take withdrawals from your PBA by the things you think, you say, and do. For example, when I stick to a commitment I've made to myself, I feel in control. It's a deposit. Cha-ching! On the other hand, when I break a promise to myself, I feel disappointed and make a withdrawal. So let me ask you, how is your PBA? How much trust and confidence do you have in yourself? Are you loaded or bankrupt? The symptoms listed below might help you evaluate where you stand. Possible symptoms of a low PBA. You cave into peer pressure easily. You wrestle with feelings of worthlessness and inferiority. You're overly concerned about what others think of you. You act arrogant to help hide your insecurities. You self-destruct by getting heavily into drugs, pornography, vandalism, or gangs. You get jealous easily, especially when someone close to you succeeds. Possible symptoms of a healthy PBA. You stand up for yourself and you resist peer pressure. You're not overly concerned about being popular. You see life as generally a positive experience. You trust yourself. You're goal-driven. You're happy for the success of others. If your personal bank account is low, don't get discouraged. It doesn't have to be permanent. Just start making small, humble deposits today. Deposits worth $1, $5, or $10. You'll feel your confidence growing. Small deposits over a long period of time is the way to a healthy and a rich PBA. With the help of various team groups, I've compiled a list of 6 key deposits that can help you build your PBA. And just like Newton's law of motion, with every deposit, there is an equal and opposite withdrawal. PBA deposits. Keep promises to yourself. Withdrawal. Break personal promises. A deposit. Do small act of kindness. Withdrawal. Keep to yourself. A deposit. Be gentle with yourself. A withdrawal. Beat yourself up. A deposit. Be honest. A lie is a withdrawal. A deposit. Renew yourself. A withdrawal. Wear yourself out. A deposit. Magnify your talents. Withdrawal. Bury your talents. Keep promises to yourself. Have you ever had flaky friends? They say they'll text you back, and they don't. They promise to hang out on the weekend, and they forget. After a while, you stop trusting them. Their commitments mean nothing. The same happens when you continually make and break self-promises, such as, I'm going to study right when I get home, when next thing you know, you're Facebook chatting with friends. After a while of flaking out on yourself, you don't trust yourself either. We should treat the commitments we make to ourselves as seriously as those we make to the most important people in our lives. If you're feeling out of control in life, focus on the single thing you can control, you. Make a promise to yourself and keep it. Start with small $5 commitments that you know you can complete, like not drinking soda pop today. After you've built up some self-trust, you can then go for the more difficult $100 deposits, like deciding to break up with an abusive boyfriend or girlfriend, or making up your mind to overcome an addiction. Do small acts of kindness. I remember reading a statement by a psychiatrist who said that if you're feeling depressed, the best thing to do is to do something for someone else. Why? because it gets you focused outward, not inward. It's hard to be depressed while helping someone else. Ironically, a byproduct of serving others is feeling wonderful yourself. I remember sitting in an airport one day waiting for my flight. I was excited because I'd been upgraded to first class. And in first class, the flight attendants are nicer, the food is edible, and there's room to stretch your legs so that they're not curled up like a pretzel. In fact, I had the best seat on the entire plane, seat 1A. Before boarding, I noticed a young lady who had several carry-on bags and was holding a crying baby. Having just finished reading a book on doing random acts of kindness, I heard my conscience speak to me. "You scumbag, let her have your ticket." I fought these promptings for a while, but eventually caved in. "Excuse me, but you look like you could use this first-class ticket more than me. I know how hard it can be flying with kids. Why don't you let me trade you tickets?" "Are you sure?" "Oh yeah, I really don't mind. I'm just going to be working the whole time anyway." "Well, thank you. That's very kind of you," she said, as we swapped tickets. As we boarded the plane, I was surprised at how good it made me feel to watch her sit down in seat 1A. In fact, under the circumstances, sitting way back near the bathrooms didn't seem that bad at all. At one point during the flight, I was so curious to see how she was doing that I got up out of my seat, walked to the first class section, and peeked in through the curtain that separates first class from coach. There she was with her baby, both asleep in big and comfortable seat 1A, and I felt like $1,000,000. Cha-ching! I've got to keep doing this kind of thing. This sweet story, shared by a teen named Tawny, is another example of the joy of service. There's a girl in our neighborhood who lives in a duplex with her parents, and they don't have a lot of money. For the past 3 years, when I grew out of my clothes, me and my mom took them over to her. I'd say something like, "I thought you might like these," or "I'd like to see you wearing this." When she wore something I gave her, I'd think it was really cool. She would say, "Thank you so much for the new shirt." I'd reply, "That color looks really good on you." I tried to be sensitive so that I didn't make her feel bad or give her the impression that I thought she was poor. It makes me feel good knowing that I'm helping her have a better life. Go out of your way to invite the kid who sits alone in class out with you and your friends. Write an email or a thank you note to someone who's made a difference in your life, like a friend, a teacher, or a coach. The next time you're at a toll booth, pay for the car behind you. Giving gives life not only to others, but also to yourself. I love these lines from The Man Nobody Knows by Bruce Barton, which illustrates this point so well. There are 2 seas in Palestine. One is fresh, and fish are in it. Splashes of green adorn its banks. Trees spread their branches over it and stretch out their thirsty roots to sip of its healing waters. The River Jordan makes this sea with sparkling water from the hills, so it laughs in the sunshine. And men build their houses near to it, and birds their nests, and every kind of life is happier because it is there. The River Jordan flows on south into another sea. Here is no splash of fish, no fluttering leaf, no song of birds, no children's laughter. Travelers choose another route, unless on urgent business. The air hangs heavy above its water, and neither man nor beast nor fowl will drink. What makes this mighty difference in these neighbor seas? Not the River Jordan. It empties the same good water into both. Not the soil in which they lie, not in the country round about. This is the difference. The Sea of Galilee receives, but does not keep the Jordan. For every drop that flows into it, another drop flows out. The giving and receiving go on in equal measure. The other sea is shrewder, hoarding its income jealously. It will not be tempted into any generous impulse. Every drop it gets, it keeps. The Sea of Galilee gives and lives. The other sea gives nothing. It is named the dead. There are 2 kinds of people in this world. There are 2 seas in Palestine. Be gentle with yourself. Being gentle means many things. It means not expecting yourself to be perfect by tomorrow morning. If you're a late bloomer, as many of us are, be patient and allow yourself enough time to grow. It means learning to laugh at the stupid things you do. I have a friend, Chuck, who's extraordinary when it comes to laughing at himself and never taking life too seriously. I've always been amazed at how this upbeat attitude attracts people to him almost magnetically. Being gentle also means forgiving yourself when you mess up. And who hasn't done that? We should learn from our mistakes, but we shouldn't beat ourselves up over them. The past is just that, past. Consider what went wrong and why. Learn and make amends if you need to, then drop it and move on.